Hey there, it's Sarah. And really quick before we dive into this episode, if you've been thinking about taking a break from alcohol this summer, I've got something for you. My Refresh and Reboot Dry July experience is starting on July 1st, and the waiting list is open now. When you join the waitlist, you'll get early access and a special discount before it opens to everyone else. This challenge is super doable, encouraging, and packed with tools to help you feel better fast. No guilt, no pressure, just a reset that actually feels good. If you're even a little bit curious, get your name on the waiting list today. Just head to the link in the show notes or head to www.nomorewasteddays.co/waiting list. And waiting list is all one word. I hope to see you in the challenge. This is the No More Wasted Days podcast, and we're your hosts, Sarah Kaufman Bradstreet
and Heather PG. Grab your favorite NA drink and listen as we share vulnerable stories so you never feel alone on your alcohol-free journey.
And gain insights from us as we break down our most used tips and strategies that have kept us alcohol-free.
It's time to break free from wasting any more of your days to the drinking, blackout, hangover cycle.
Welcome to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
I'm Heather.
And today we're talking all about dry drunk versus true recovery and figuring out what the difference is between those two things. Because I have a lot of people, a lot of trolls on the internet like to say that I'm a dry drunk when I post things about the fact that I did not do AA. But one thing I know about myself is I do a lot of what is called the work. And I know Heather does as well, right?
I didn't do, and I absolutely love this topic just in the terms of the work and not doing the work, you know?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, when I talk to them, I'll say things like dry drunk, and they'll go, what even is that? And we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about why this actually matters. And we're going to tell you how to really know if you're in true recovery or if maybe your actions are taking on that of what people like to call a quote unquote dry drunk. First time I heard the word dry drunk or the term dry drunk, I was like, well, that's really rude. And now within my friends who are on a sobriety journey, we'll say it to each other, kind of like, I just feel like I'm a dry drunk right now. I'm not really I'm just letting days pass and not really doing the work. Have you found that your relationship with this term has changed?
Yes, I don't think I knew what this term meant for a while. Well, I started studying about it when I was doing the lots of beginnings of emotional work. That's where I found the term, I believe. And now I use it kind of as a way to check myself, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, what you were saying with your friends.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. So let's define it. So people who are listening going, well, what the heck is a dry drunk? This is something I've never heard because I've talked to people who are really far along on their journey and they haven't even heard it. But a simple definition is a person who's no longer drinking, but hasn't addressed the root causes or emotional wounds behind their alcohol use. And they'll be physically sober, so they don't drink, but they may feel mentally or emotionally stuck. And one thing I like about this is that you can say, well, I kind of feel mentally or emotionally stuck right now, or I feel like I'm doing okay right now. I mean, I just feel like there's so many places you can be on your journey. And that's why I say sometimes you can actually go, am I just a dry drunk right now? Am I not putting in the work? So I really like knowing that definition. I also know when I first started, I was like, there was no reason why I drank so much. That's whatever. I just drank a lot. So apparently in the very beginning, I was definitely in the dry drunk area. And then as I dug a little deeper, I was like, there had to have been a reason. There has to be something. And I need to be able to clue in and figure it out. And I know Heather is different and knew there was a reason for her drinking. Like, I feel like you were very clear on that very early.
Oh, yeah. I was aware of why, some of the reasons why and what I was drowning and how I was using it. And it didn't become more clear until time went on without it. And it still evolved too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think too, because I think even what I originally thought was the reason why I chose to drink, that has also evolved. So if you're sitting here going, I don't know if I'm a dry drunk, like I'm going to give you some signs that you may be feeling if to kind of go, oh, I do think I fall into this category. So, some common signs may be that you're still irritable or resentful or anxious. Now, this is not always, like sometimes we're on the journey and we're experiencing anxiety or depression and we're putting in the work. So, you really know if you are, but this may be early on. The next one is a big red flag for me when you're white knuckling sobriety and you still feel like you're missing out on your drinking days. That is something when they get through the 30-day challenge and they're just like, I did it. I white knuckled it every single day. I'm like, oh, that's not how it's supposed to feel. Like, yes, it will feel hard because you're breaking a habit. But if you feel like I am white knuckling my sobriety, I am barely getting through each day, that's a huge red flag. And then fantasizing about drinking or feeling like alcohol is still missing from your life. Now, this one I think is sensitive because the fantasizing about drinking, I think there's a difference between fantasizing and romanticizing. Would you say the same for that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that missing it and getting caught up in like the re-glorification is completely normal. I think when we're fantasizing about it a lot, we need to check ourselves because we're probably going to drink again, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because I think too the fantasizing is almost like visualizing yourself doing it, whereas romanticizing is kinda going, "Oh, I remember that. That was really fun," and then you can still take yourself down from that pretty easily. And then one of the I have 2 more signs for you. One is relationships haven't improved or have gotten harder. Now, this I feel like this one may be a sensitive topic, especially if you have a spouse who still drinks. I mean, that can be tough, especially if they don't like the fact that you are on an alcohol-free journey. But for me, I did notice a lot of ease slipped into my relationships that wasn't there before. It was easier to parent. It was easier to talk to my husband. It was easier to keep plans with friends. So think about that one because that's one where you start going, "Oh, all my friends are everything's hard right now." And then lastly, your personal growth just feels stagnant. Like you feel like I'm sober, but nothing's changed. And I hear a lot of people say that to me, like, "I'm sober, but nothing's changed." And you talk about all these great things that have come your way, and I'm like, that's a little bit of a sign that it is all you've done is cut off the alcohol use. So, did you wanna touch on anything of those last 2?
Right? About like the drug label per se, the expectation is you remove one thing or one person
Mhm.
in your life or add one thing, one person in your life. Do you think your life is going to improve 100%?
Yeah.
That is part of what leads to a lot of the irritability going back to drinking because for me, stopping drinking was about 10% of it, 90% was the work.
Yeah.
So and on the flip side of that, I will say too, it cured about 50% of my problems just to quit drinking. So
Right? Yeah, I know. It's interesting because you will definitely lose hangovers. You'll lose blackouts. You'll start to get better sleep because your body will be like, "Okay, I'm gonna adjust and improve in this area." So there's physical changes that will take place and improve. But I think when people are seeking that emotional change, that's not going to change unless you put in the work, which I then people might go, "Well, why even quit drinking?" Because it is so much easier to show up for the work when you're not drinking. Agreed?
yeah, and if you try to make any change in your life for the better, it is wise to do some type of work support around it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You're gonna
if
get
you
the full benefit.
Yep, definitely. So what does true recovery look like? Now you know what dry drunk looks like. Let's look over on the other side. So then you can kind of go, "Ooh, am I in this?" Cuz I can go through that dry drunk thing and even I go, "Ooh, I have one in there right now." I'm having serious anxiety issues right now and I'm like, "Oh, is that something?" But the thing is too, I know I'm doing the work to figure it out. So then I'm like, "Okay, that's not me." But I could look at that and go, "Oh, that's me." And then I'm like, nope, you will fall into some categories of both. So now what does true recovery look? True recovery, when we define it, is not just about abstaining from alcohol. It's about changing the inner narrative and how you experience life. It's healing, growing, connecting, and evolving. And all of that's going to take a little bit of work. And then some signs that you're in real recovery are that you're not fighting with yourself every day over whether or not to drink. Now, early on in the journey, I wasn't fighting with myself. It was just difficult because it was difficult to break the habit. Where did you find yourself early on in the journey? Did it feel like a fight or did it feel just like this is uncomfortable? This is difficult?
Probably about, I think the fight was, I couldn't tell you how many years of day ones. Then the fight not to drink every 15 minutes or think about it every 15 minutes
Yeah.
after I quit. Then the extreme struggle through the first 30 to 100 days.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a definite fight there, but it can be different than that white knuckling feeling for sure. And then another sign that you're in real recovery is you've developed emotional tools like self soothing, boundary setting, or sitting with discomfort. And if you're sitting here going, I haven't done that yet, don't worry. We're going to give you some tips and tools on how to do it. And it may be that your relationships have become more honest, respectful, and fulfilling. Things like you tell your friends you're going to meet them in the morning and you actually follow through and do it because you're not hungover. And then you may experience real joy finally and not just the absence of pain. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, yes, some things are really hard without alcohol, but some things are so, so good without alcohol. And you just get to be so present in a way that you weren't before. And then lastly, you're going to feel more aligned with who you really are, not who you were pretending to be while drinking. And a lot of these things are higher level things. These are things that are going to come farther in on the journey. Would you agree with that?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because you get to figure out who you are without it, and then what you're in alignment with, and who was I pretending to be. And it's ever evolving, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think for some of those, if you're like, say you're in your first 30 days, 60 days, and you're going, I'm not getting more in touch with who I really am yet, don't worry, that will come. Some of this stuff just comes a little bit later. I know for me, the getting in touch with me, myself, was something a little bit later, and learning how to feel my emotions and really let them sit is something that happened a little later. And it's still something I work on. Like, I also want people to know that I still do the work every single day. Do you too, Heather?
The rent is due every day.
Every
Mm.
day. Yes, exactly. So, how do you move from dry drunk to true recovery? If you're sitting here going, oh, well, shit, I'm in the dry drunk category. So, I'm going to give you quick tips and tools. Now, what I want you to know is we have done podcast recordings on almost all of these. So, if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to know more, then go back to our library and you'll start being like, oh, I can learn more about this one or this one. So, number one is self reflection. I want you to start asking yourself, what was I trying to escape or numb? And then I want you to journal about it. Maybe do some therapy, do voice memos to yourself to help connect the dots. I love, love, love that because I forget about even on like ChatGPT, you can do voice and chat will talk back to you in his little robot voice that sounds pretty humanish. But it is like, do those things so you can start processing what was I trying to escape or numb. And my big tip for this one is to go back to when you were a very, very young drinker. What did it give you? Why did you go back for more? And that can start to explain some, or go to a period where you know you were really struggling in your life and you were drinking. What was it giving you? What was it helping you with? Because it was helping you with something. You're a smart person and you were drinking. That doesn't make you dumb. You were trying to fix a problem, you were trying to figure it out. So, all right, number two is emotional work. This one can feel really, really hard on your own. So, I definitely recommend therapy or coaching. You can do coaching sessions with Heather. We have the link in the show notes always so you can work with Heather and she can really help you work on this. And some of the day makers work with Heather and they'll always mention, oh, the work I do with Heather is so beneficial because this is exactly what we're working on and we're setting up tools and boundaries. Or you can do group support like the day makers And then you start to realize you're not alone. And this will help you work through resentment, grief, and guilt. And it can help you identify what needs healing beneath the drinking habits. Is for your emotional work, has it mostly been done through groups and through therapy?
It has been done every way I know to possibly do it.
Yes.
It was my goal year 2, and it is why I drank a whole lot of booze. So, I always call it my team, coaching, groups, books, podcasts, courses. I mean, any way I know to do it.
Yeah.
Truly, I will try anything because I know that that's the area that I have to do the work on every day, and that is technically the rent that I pay every day is the
Yeah.
emotional work.
I love that. That's how I pay the rent every day. Number 3 is healthy coping strategies. I feel like this is actually one of the first ones that people will start working on when they first quit drinking. So things like meditation, doing walks, morning routines, journaling, breath work. The reason I say this is what I think people do early on, these are the very tangible things. It's easy when somebody says, try meditation. You're like, I know what that looks like. I can do that. Try going on a walk. I know what that looks like. I can try that. So if this is where if you're going, man, I don't even know where to start here. Healthy coping
Gratitude.
strategies.
Gratitude, easy, basic and easily accessible tools.
Yes, exactly. And you're going to learn how to replace the reward cycle this way with things that actually nourish you and not alcohol. And you're going to start seeing like, oh, I can do this differently. I can change this. So this is what I set people up with in the 30-day challenge. It's like, these are the things you need to do right now. And then all the other stuff will come. All right. So number 4 is community and connection, which we talked about briefly. But again, if you don't know where to find community, you can go to an AA meeting, Smart Recovery, or you can check out the Daymakers. And if you're doing the Daymakers or any online group, participate. It is scary. I know it is. I had somebody hop on a call last night and they're like, I didn't turn on my camera and I didn't say anything. They sent me an email afterwards. I was way too nervous, but I was there. And I was like, that's the first step. And I was like, and at the next one, turn on your camera. At the
Right,
next one, say something. Like, don't go easy. Talk in the chat.
right. I was in the luckiest club. It's a sobriety support community paired with the Daymakers, and I have been off and on for years. And I couldn't share my voice for a long time.
Mm,
I was in a garage in the dark, and when I would go to share, it was like somebody turned the light on. I would just like
yeah.
scared, and I used the chat, and then, like and I'm not shy, you know this, Sarah. It's horrible, and you feel like you don't have skin when you first quit drinking, and,
It
you know
is. And depending what the topic is for the first call that you hop onto, it can be like last night I was asking the daymakers to be really vulnerable. And not all of them shared for sure. They were like, I'm gonna sit this one out. But I was so impressed with those that did. But they were the members that have been there a longer time. And they watched me be vulnerable sharing. And the new member, I was like, oh, of course you didn't share. Like that was very overwhelming. But now you've got a tool that you can do on your own and you can talk about it within the chat. So it is like, get in there and really, if you're going to do it, participate. And one of my friends, Laura Van Antwerp, who does Your Sober Pal, she said, I was trying to get sober on my own, but that was the same person who told me I could drink over and over and over. So why was I going to rely on that person? So I had to find a community. And I was like, oh, that was perfectly put. So find that community and lean in. Number 5 is spiritual or purpose based practices. I think this one can come a lot farther along on your journey. I feel like this one came year 3, year 4 for me because I was like, I'm not doing a spiritual practice. Forget it. It took me a while. So remember, it doesn't have to be religious, just something that makes you feel connected to something bigger than your ego. And that's what we're working on there. And I know that was a big thing for me, and I had to really work on that. It can be nature, creativity, journaling, or surrendering to a higher power, whatever it looks like to you. Do not feel like it needs to be going to church if that's not your thing. But, and me and Heather talked about that a little bit on an earlier episode. I know Heather was going to try a new church. How did it go?
I did not go because I was exhausted, and the only thing I could do was lay in my bed, and to me, after you get some rest and you're naming your plants and you're propagating, the new term I learned by using that is that is a spiritual practice.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So don't overthink it. And then number 6 is forgiveness and grace. This one is another one that I think comes late. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't First there's forgiving yourself that you can start working on right away because you can start doing cool strategies and tools to get through that. But then it is working on if you want to work on forgiveness with others. That's something that we've done episodes on, but it is just like working on that forgiveness with yourself and reminding yourself that it's okay if your first version of sobriety felt flat. That doesn't mean you did it wrong. It just means that you were just getting started. So if you're kind of sitting in this going, I haven't worked on the forgiveness piece yet, that's okay. That's going to come.
A lot of people that I know that go to AA quit before, or they never do the amends part, and they
Hmm.
make it step 6 for a reason because it's
Yeah.
a lot of days under your belt.
I will tell you one of the reasons I didn't want to do AA was that step. Like I was like, I don't need to make amends with anybody. And now I'm like, and I
Oh,
learned like I've learned so much just from talking to people who go to AA about what it actually looks like. And I think we build it up in our head as this like you have to go on an apology tour. And it's a little bit of that, but it's not always just that. So but that is what I have for you on the dry drunk versus true recovery. I really hope that this has cleared up a lot of misconceptions for people because I know for me, when sometimes I'm called a dry drunk by a true troll that is just trying to make me feel bad about myself. But I have to thank the first troll that did it because it made me one, learn what the term was, and two, go, I don't want to be that. That doesn't sound like something like when I read the definition, I was like, oh, yeah, I want to do the work. So thank you to the first troll, but the other ones, you can stop saying it.
yeah.
But if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to give us a rating. And if you haven't already, follow us. That helps us just improve into the algorithm. More people get to see this podcast and it helps others on the journey. And please check out the Daymakers community and one on one coaching if you're trying to figure out where you're going to fit in that community piece, because those are just perfect. And I just want you to remember that sobriety is just the beginning and recovery is actually where the joy lives. And you deserve more than a dry life. You deserve a full one. So,
Good. I love that. That spoke to my soul. Thank you,
oh,
Sarah.
good. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add to this one?
No, I think this has been really, really helpful, and I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say. And until next week, bye, y'all.